There is no medium more powerful than that of a video game.
I'll miss you.
Me too.
There are only 3 games that I've ever played that have made me cry. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. And if you've never cried before watching a movie or a TV show or playing a video game, why not? Isn't that the entire point of these mediums? You are supposed to lose reality by projecting yourself onto the main characters of that medium. Personally, video games seem to affect me more than shows do.
Shit.
And I really have to think about it to remember what movies I've teared up watching.
Please don't.
But I'll never forget these 3 games.
Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby, I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby, I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. No. No, no, no. Please. 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 Please don't. Please.
You succeeded, man! You did it! And that's when it hits you. That's when you realize that you can't save them. Because your name is Link. And you have to save the world. No matter the cost. The struggle to nail such a difficult quest. You had to work hard. You want the mask, sure, but you also want to save their love. True love. Young love. But you can't. You can't change the future. Fuck Romeo and Juliet, man. I have Majora's Mask. I think the biggest reason for this is I felt helpless. And think about this for a second. How often playing a Zelda game have you really felt helpless? Seriously now, think about this. Can you name one situation in the entire franchise like this? And we're talking about the year 2000. This is back when you had keyword forums. If you couldn't figure out what to do in a video game, you could go to a forum and hope somebody knew. And that's what this quest was. You know, it was really difficult to figure out, so you do all this, you work hard, you beat it, and then you find out it was for nothing. It really was the only moment I can think of in the entire series where you felt useless. Where the hopelessness of the entire game culminates into one point. And you realize that you have to defeat Skull Kid. You have to save Termina. That's your only chance you'll ever truly have to help not only Andrew and Kafai, but the entire land of Termina. Everybody.
An assault on your senses, and a fight for your heartstrings. Majora's Mask is unlike any other game that exists today. Now, as much as I love the other Zelda games, you know, Zelda, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, so on and so forth, all of those other games, their characters and story and their structure, none of them are as unique as Majora's Mask. I mean, this is the most unique game in the entire franchise. And not just because it has darker themes to it and more mature themes, and that's really what it's famous for, but this game isn't just a video game. It really is art. Sure, Twilight Princess was dark, but that was a whole different style. This game has a lot of mature themes to it. We're talking about death and destruction of the entire world. Not like in Twilight Princess, where it's something taking the world over. No, this is literally the destruction of the world. Termina is going to be destroyed, and you have to stop it. The whole time by this creepy demonic moon that's just coming down upon you. And you can look up at any time and look up in the sky and see this grotesque face just getting bigger and bigger every second. And you only have 3 days to stop it. It's impossible. There's no way you could do this in 3 days. Luckily you have the Ocarina of Time, and with the Song of Time you can go back in time and keep trying until you finally get a chance to do it, building upon your successes, and eventually you get to the point where you can save the world. And meanwhile you're helping people out, and just like the Andrew Kafai quest, it gets overwhelming. But you know, the experience in this game isn't just a video game. This is art, man. If you've played Ocarina of Time and you haven't played this game, you have to. Right? If you're a gamer, you have to play it.
Majora's Mask is the most unique game in the entire franchise, and that is a bold statement considering how odd some of the titles have been. It took the amazing engine that Ocarina of Time was built on and upgraded it in every way with awesome new weapons and maneuvers, and the power of the N64 expansion pack created at the time the prettiest title on the N64 yet. The story was mesmerizing and the characters were brilliantly designed, the music was awesome and the control was perfect. So, why do some people seem to hate it so much? It's funny because as much as I'll wax poetically about this game, I have to admit, the first time I played it, I hated Majora's Mask. And I wasn't alone. And so I did a little research for this video trying to figure out why there was such a split opinion on the game, and my results were pretty universal. Most of the people that didn't like the game hated the fact that there was a time mechanic that restrained your ability to explore, which is one of the biggest staples of a Zelda game. Majora's Mask was the first game in the series to completely change the formula on a Zelda game. You could no longer go after every item you wanted before the next dungeon, or explore the land of Termina freely. You had a time limit, and if you goofed off too long or you weren't fast enough to get to your goal, all of your hard work went down the drain and you had to start all over. My argument to that, and it took a while for me to come to it, was that this allows for the game to have a different style of atmosphere than other Zelda games. The mechanics of gameplay were completely different. You had to replay dungeons, for example, out of necessity and not out of boredom. It allowed for people to have schedules, and these schedules made for interesting side quests, like the Andrew and Kafai quest, and it made the land of Termina feel more real. It felt like in older Zelda games, like Ocarina of Time, that you were just this actor and this stage was set out for you and everything was done for you. But in Majora's Mask, everybody had their own world and you were just in it. And some of the people didn't seem like they gave a damn. If you helped them or talked to them, they were busy doing their own thing. And for the first time, it really did feel as if you were in this huge world having this adventure with real live people. It was enthralling. And perhaps I was too young, too influenced by other people's opinions. People who were playing games on the new exciting PlayStation 2s and Sega Dreamcasts. The N64 is for babies. Look at this.
Twisted Metal Black! Extreme games for extreme gamers! Look at these awesome graphics! Madden 2001! These games will make you forget about your stupid Nintendo console! Silence go!
Actually, I'll drop that joke right there. I admit it, I love the PS2. Love it! It's the best-selling console of all time, and for good reason. But that doesn't mean the games on it are timeless. Some of them were, but have you played Grand Theft Auto 3 lately? Yeah, it didn't age very well, did it? And Majora's Mask aged as well, sure it did, but this game is still as much of an experience as it was in October 2000 when it was released, just a week after the PS2 took over the gaming world and changed the industry forever. To me, this was a big moment in my gaming life, as I was also taken over by the hype of Sony's new and admittedly powerful machine. The PS2's graphics were too much to resist in the year Y2K, and despite Majora's Mask being as beautiful an N64 game as it was, even with the expansion pack and all that, by then I was turned off by the N64 and I didn't want it. I hated it immediately. I never even gave it a chance, because I was a sucker. I was influenced by other people, and my atonement wouldn't come until 2006 when I decided to try the game again, and I realized that missing this game was the biggest mistake in my Zelda fandom I had ever made. In the land of Hyrule, there echoes a legend held dearly by the royal family that tells of a boy who, after battling evil and saving Hyrule, crept away from that land that had made him a legend. Done with the battles he once waged against time, he embarked on a journey, a secret and personal journey. A journey in search of a beloved and invaluable friend. A friend with whom he parted ways when he finally fulfilled his heroic destiny and took his place among legends. Link's journey takes him to the farthest reaches of Hyrule. While riding through a mysterious forest on his trusty horse, Epona, Link is ambushed by the masked Skull Kid and his fairy accomplices Tattle and Tail, who kidnap Epona and steal his precious instrument, the Ocarina of Time. In desperation, Link follows him into a dark cave where he confronts the Skull Kid. Using the power of the strange mask he wears, the Skull Kid is able to curse Link, turning him into a Deku scrub. When Link attempts to stop the Skull Kid, Tattle impedes Link, as the Skull Kid and Tail escape quickly through a door. Unable to follow, and realizing she needs Link's help to find them, Tattle insists that they work together. Link follows the Skull Kid through the cave, emerging in the inside of a clock tower in the center of the strange land of Termina. There, Link meets the happy mask salesman, who seems to have been following him. The salesman offers to help Link reverse his curse, in exchange for which he must retrieve both the Ocarina of Time and the mask, called Majora's Mask, from the Skull Kid. The Skull Kid stole the mask from the salesman, which then possessed him with its overwhelming power and transformed him into an uncontrollable fiend, who inflicts certain misfortune on others, the worst of which is an impending apocalypse. The moon is now set to collide with the world in approximately 3 days' time. What could Link possibly do to prevent this calamity? Will he ever return to his true form? Will he ever retrieve that precious item that Princess Zelda gifted him long ago? What will become of Epona? And what will become of Termina? Okay, there, we mentioned Tingle. Okay, let's move on. In Majora's Mask, Nintendo went a different route with the story of the game, which in this title is directly influenced by the story, and not the other way around. The fact that you have 3 days to stop the Skull Kid sets up the entire base of the game. In Majora's Mask, you have to reunite 4 sleeping giants, whom have the power to stop the descending moon's fall. These 4 giants lay in the 4 temples: Woodfall, Snowhead, Great Bay, and the Stone Tower. These 4 temples lay at the compass points in Termina, and Link must defeat the bosses of all 4 temples in 3 days. Since this is impossible to do the first time Link arrives, he must utilize the power of the magical Song of Time that he learned from Zelda long ago. In Termina, the Song of Time can do more than
Accio Magic Block!
It literally controls time. If Link plays the song backwards, for example, time slows to 1/2 speed. And if he plays the song with each note played twice instead of once, he can jump forward in time to the closest 6 o'clock. And if he plays the song normally, he returns to 6 a.m. on the first day. But there is a catch though. When Link travels back in time, he loses all of his items that he's collected, and any and all events that Link has cleared are reverted to their original state. Other than his masks and some weapons, he cannot travel back in time with any of his items. Bombs, rupees, arrows, and other collectibles are lost, and all cleared dungeons are filled with monsters once again.
And this is the reason I hated this game so much as a teenager. I cleared the first dungeon only to find out it was all for naught. Since I was already in a state of mind where I was over the Nintendo 64, I just quit playing the game right there. And I didn't really give it another chance until later on, a few years later, where I finished Twilight Princess and a friend of mine told me, hey, don't forget, Majora's Mask was darker than Twilight Princess. So I went and downloaded an emulator and tried it, and I was like, man, I really need to play this on the N64. So I went and bought me a Nintendo 64 and I got Majora's Mask, and as you may or may not be aware of, I am a video game collector, and that collection started the day I bought this game, and no regrets, man. This game, I thank this game for a lot of things, and well, it's one of them right there. It may not be my favorite Zelda game or the best Zelda game, but I stand by my statement from earlier. This is the most unique.
Gives the player a constant reminder of his or her mortality and will make your palms sweat and your heartbeat race. Each character in the game has a schedule. In the 3 days of playing time, that character will always be in a specific place or doing a specific task at that specific time. In the NPC's eyes, he or she is simply going through life, but as Link, you can use this to your advantage. Thanks to some little kids who jump you into their little gang. At least it's not as bad as these little bastards. Yeah! I gotta save that joke for the Wind Waker episode. They give you a magical notebook called the Bomber's Notebook. This item allows you to automatically keep up with each character's schedule, so you can try and help each person in Termina. Earlier I mentioned that when you travel back in time, it doesn't really matter. In the direct context of them reverting to their earlier states, this is true. But any rewards you receive typically stay with Link, usually in the form of masks. In Majora's Mask, instead of Triforces, pendants, crystals, medallions, whatever, you collect masks. Yeah, a bit odd, but better than collecting Tears of Light, I suppose. When you complete a dungeon, you receive a special mask, and when you help NPCs, you will occasionally receive a mask from them. Each mask in the game has some special function or magical power. The Bunny Hood, for example, returns from Ocarina of Time, but in this game, it allows Link to run faster and jump farther. The Blast Mask can literally blow up in Link's face, as a bomb would, of course at the cost of Link's health. But the coolest masks in Majora's Mask are the 4 cursed masks: the Deku Mask, the Goron Mask, the Zora's Mask, and the Fierce Deity Mask. These 4 masks allow Link to change his form into a different character. The coolest one is the Fierce Deity Mask, but you can unfortunately only use this mask at the game's finale, rendering it useless in Termina without cheat codes and glitches. The game also introduced the pictograph, allowing Link to take photos at will. This would later return in Wind Waker in an improved form. Termina itself is a much smaller land to explore than Hyrule was, and that is actually by design. With a limited amount of time to explore the land, there was no need to make the area gigantic, and this actually results in a much richer land to explore, as there are more NPCs besides the ones in Clocktown. the central village that is directly in the path of the falling moon. In the southern swamp, for example, you will find the Deku tribe, as well as 2 familiar witches, and other characters as well. Despite this, you still get to team up once again with Epona, your trusty steed, to travel much faster through Termina. There are many fan theories and rumors surrounding this game, none of which we're going to go into in this video. This is a review and retrospective, not a fan theory video. But in case you're curious, there is the infamous Ben drowned theory, the Deku Butler's son theory, the Link is dead theory,
the moon is not really that dangerous theory, Majora is the hero theory, Kafai is a Sheikah theory, the aliens theory, the milk bar on bar rescue theory, the masked salesman on Storage Wars theory, the weakest Link theory, the Snowhead Temple's snow melting because of global warming caused by Link's usage of fire arrows causing carbon monoxide, which then accumulates around the falling moon, which heats up Termina's average annual temperature, which is also the reason Zoras are dying around the beach, and that Woodfall Temple is all poison because it's getting too hot theory.
Okay, some of those I might have just made up. But anyways, if you can look past the fact that there are only 4 dungeons, which are amazingly crafted by the way, you have a really great experience. Just for the record, the Stone Tower Temple, which is not my personal favorite, seems to be the undisputed fan favorite for all-time greatest Zelda dungeon. Again, it isn't my favorite, I prefer the Spirit Temple in Ocarina myself, but this is a masterfully created dungeon for the record and worth the playthrough by itself. Anyways, the parallel world of Termina uses a lot of the same character models and designs from Ocarina, but uses them in very creative ways. For example, the Gerudo ladies in this title return as pirates, whom steal Zora eggs from the nearby Zora Reef. The witches Kume and Kotake show up in Termina, no longer influenced by Ganondorf's evil ways. They retire to a potion shop where they'll help Link, if he helps them first. Lon Lon Ranch is now Romani Ranch, where there are 2 Malins? No, I'm kidding. There's Cremia, a beautiful ranch owner, and her younger sister Romani. They are responsible for supplying milk to the Clock Town's milk bar. For some reason, everybody in the milk bar acts drunk. What are they putting in that milk? Magic powder? Anyways, the graphics in Majora's Mask are very unique to the series. Not so much in actual character design. I mean, they're basically ripped right from Ocarina of Time, but the engine is the exact same, so Link controls the same way as he did in Ocarina. But what sets this game apart is its art style. The N64's blurry effects and polygons really help to amplify the creepiness of the cutscenes, heightening the sense of dread the player feels in each situation. If you're open-minded enough to look past the outdated models and effects, and the lack of voice acting, you find a title that is horrifyingly creepy. It really does put the player in panic mode. It makes him or her feel as if the world really is going to end. And the soundtrack takes it further. This is possibly the creepiest music in the entire Zelda franchise. Some familiar tunes return from Ocarina, but almost every new song is very dark and mysterious, if not outright disturbing. One cool new feature is the instruments that each form of Link has. I'm fond of the guitar myself, personally. Also, each mask form has a special power. Deku Link can fly, Goron Link can punch and roll, Zora Link can swim and shoot boomerang-like fins, Giant Link, well, he's a giant, and Fierce Deity Link is the baddest badass in the badass Zelda franchise. Look at Link, he went full Tron on us.
And this is a great Zelda game for a number of reasons. Possibly because it is the saddest, darkest, and, well, most lonely game in the entire series. For the entire game, other than tattling Epona, you're alone. You're on your own this entire mission. You gotta go back in time 3 days all the time. So even if you make relationships with other characters, they completely forget. It's like Groundhog Day or 50 First Dates or something not Adam Sandler related at all. F you, Pixels. F you. God, that movie was horrid. The denizens of Termina, they don't really seem to care that you're going through a struggle. Half of them want to evacuate the city, and the other half, they're torn because there's this carnival of time going on that they worked so hard for all year to prepare for. They don't know what they're going to do. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it?
This can be a polarizing game for sure, but it is an experience every gamer should have at least once. Majora's Mask 3D is also available for the 3DS and is worth a playthrough if you have a 3DS, as in some ways it's superior to the N64 version. Updated 3D graphics and a better save system are the beginnings of the improvements in this title.
But there are two factors that hold this version back for me, which is ironic because when I tell you what they are, you're going to be like, really? The first one is the fact that they improved the graphics. What? Well, the graphics are so improved that I feel like the N64's version, with its blurrier textures and transitions into cutscenes and whatnot, it gives the game a different, more creepy ambience. The old school graphics really amplified that sense. The other thing about this game I didn't like is that they made it easier to save your game. Again, that sounds like a great thing. But in this title, you couldn't save unless you reached the end of your 3-day cycle. So that gave a sense of pressure on the player. If you started playing, you were in it. You were committed. You were going to finish that 3 days no matter what. If you had to go to work, you had to go to school, you had to go eat dinner, whatever. Guess what, dude? You got to start over. Unless you finish those 3 days and save the game, all your work was for nothing. In this game, it doesn't have that same pressure. It does kind of water down the experience a little bit, in my opinion. But this is still a great version of the game, and if you own a 3DS, you should check it out. It is a good version, even still.
At the end of the day, it's really up to you how you want to experience Majora's Mask. I prefer the N64 version, but there are many places you can play this. For example, it's on the GameCube, and also on the Wii Virtual Console. Those versions are the original N64 game. As of this video, the game is not available on the Wii U, but using the Wii Virtual Console through the Wii U, you can get this game to play. If you have a 3DS, consider the remake, as it is a great reimagining of the game.
In conclusion, this is a masterpiece of video game. It's so underrated. But thanks to this version, it's finally getting some love, which I really do appreciate. But I still feel like it's overshadowed by Ocarina of Time. And don't get me wrong, it's for good reason. Ocarina of Time is one of the best games of all time. But this is such a good game, it doesn't deserve to be overshadowed by anything. It is an experience in video gaming unlike anything you've ever seen. If you haven't played it, what the hell's wrong with you, man? It's an experience. Just like those other two games that I mentioned earlier in this video. It will stay with you long after you turn the power off. In part 7 of our Zelda Retrospective Series, we're going to take a break from the main series because there's so many games in the Zelda series that deserve our attention, and that includes a lot of handheld titles, some of which, like Link's Awakening, made an impact on the series so great it couldn't be ignored, yet others, some of them you may have heard of, and others you may not have. In part 7, we're going to be talking about Zelda on the Go, part 1 of a 2-part special. Till then, I'm JSR, reminding you to always hold the reset button down when you turn your power off, or else you might lose your save data. Be careful.